Hi, I'm Jenn Legnini from Turtle Rock Farm in Union, and we're here today. Now you're cooking, making classic dill pickles. This is a really classic in-house recipe for us, so I'm excited to be here. I'm just talking about how much we love this shop. We have our spreadable foods here, our low sugar jams. All of our products are made from local produce. Yes, we are. So we make a lot of pickles and pantry goods from produce that we grow. We have an organic apple orchard, and then we work with local fruit growers to make some of our low sugar jams and other products. And it's cucumber season, so we're doing this now. We did it all day. We did it all day yesterday. We'll do it all day tomorrow. Pickling. So just dive in. Yeah. On that, since we are deep in it, the biggest thing for us is to be prepared. I know here you guys probably talk a lot about mise en place and having your things in place. For us, that is having all of our spice mixes together and our jars on hand, and feeling really clear and grounded in our recipe. So the recipe that you all have found, have received is enough for this recipe and then a few, and so what we do, is just a suggestion if you do have a lot of cucumbers starting to come in your garden, is I usually make at home like 4 to 5 times this, just so you have it on hand, because we are certainly getting into the flush of the gardens. So I think we'll just walk through everything. I guess I really want to talk about the cucumbers because I adore them so much. And there are a couple really clear, I want to call them tricks, but they just feel like facts to crisp pickles. And we can talk about all of those, but for starts, is we really choose our variety. And there's 2 different kinds of cucumbers. There's picklers and there's slicers. And for making pickle chips and pickle spears, it really is best to use the picklers and to not choose the other ones. The other ones are good for relishes and things still, but so this variety is Cool Customer. It's a Johnny's variety. There's some other great ones that we use, like Alibi and National Pickler. There's Kirby too. You can tell a pickler because it has these nice big ridges on it, and these varieties they have like a higher dry matter, so they stay firm and they're perfect for pickles. These came from Bluebell Farm in Bodenham. Dave grows incredible cucumbers, and this garlic is from our farm. And all of these organic spices are from Griffin Ridge Spices, which, there's a whole host here. I just saw the kitchen is stocked. And so this is our pickle blend, and something we can talk about a little more later, but basically once we get all of these really grounded steps in place, there's some things you can change out. So as long as you're using whole spices, whole herbs and spices, this is our pickling blend, but if Griffin Ridge has some ginger in there, so if you want to play with different pickling blends, that is something that you can adjust. We'll talk about the things to make sure you are not adjusting when you're pickling too. Let's lead with that. So this recipe is perfect for a quick pickle. If you made them today or tomorrow, you would have them for the weekend and through the next couple weeks in your fridge. Or if you are ready or just getting into canning, this recipe is suited for canning too. We've got our cucumbers. Let's say, should we just start doing it? Yeah, okay. One step to pickling is to salt your cucumbers before, that mise en place also accounting for your time. So we want to have a little prep, and then you're going to wait 1 to 4 hours after you've salted your cucumbers to jump into the pickling process. So we did salt these, and we've already drained and rinsed them. So you just put them through a colander and spritz the water on top to wash the salt crystals off. What that salting does is it pulls out the cucumber's natural waters, so when it sits in the brine, it'll take on that pickle brine, and that's how the brine saturates all the way through the vegetable. So yes, and so I like spears. Other people love chips, so I've done a little bit of a mix of both, and we'll kind of walk through the different ways. I'll just show you how I do them both. Spears I tend to do in bigger, like pint or quart size jars, and chips are great for any size. This recipe is going to be good if you're canning up to a quart size, and then from there we would talk about adjusting times in your process. So you can do this anything from a half pint up to a quart. Okay, so here's the first that science trick tip to keep a crisp pickle is we want to trim the blossom end off, which is the opposite of the stem end. Sometimes you're lucky when you get cucumbers and it's obvious which is the stem. If it's not, the blossom end, you can tell that it's kind of scabbed over from where that blossom was and where the fruit grew from it. So that it has an enzyme that it helps the cucumber grow, but if you pickle it with it, that enzyme will continue helping that cucumber grow, so it will not stay crisp. Not grow, but just, yes, advance. So we want to just get rid of it, and that's all it takes is just, trimming those ends off. So I'm going to run through and do that for all of these guys. And then these are the bigger ones I'm going to use for spears. So I've chosen smaller ones for the chips and wider ones for the spears because we're going to get more out of these longer, wider ones. Yes, so it's a good little compost pile. So let's start with the spears. So when we're doing the spears, we want them to fit in the jar. So I'm going to make a guide and take the first one and decide that none of them are going to be taller than where I trim this to. So I'm going to choose, we want to leave a little bit of headspace in the jar, so I'm going to go to about here on the cucumber and decide that that is how high it's going to go. We can just double check ourselves. Yeah, that's a great height because we're going to have spices in there and more things. So now I'm going to come and trim all the rest of my cucumbers to that same height. You can choose to take off the stem end too if you like. I like it. It kind of reminds me of pickles growing up. We never did that, so but you can. So to do the spears, I cut them in half, and then you want the flat side on your cutting board so you're not moving around or like rolling around this way. And you can either cut it right down the middle, or you can go on an angle and make yourself some extra ones like that. And I guess I don't have another bowl going. So if we saw that, we'll go this way and that way, and we're going to end up with 3 spears. We should put them right in there. Thank you. Well, or can I just grab one more? Thank you. Okay. Yes, multiple bowls. I guess we already used that bowl up, so we'll get all those in there. I'm just going to go ahead and make some wider spears. I think these are great for putting out for snacks or charcuterie boards. For all of those more snack-like ones, and then chips are so good for sandwiches and everything. So I'll leave that one. So with the chips, you don't want to go wider than about 1/4 of an inch. That's what this recipe is good for. We know the brine is going to definitely get through 1/4 of an inch. But you can go thinner. Some people like a really nice thin chip, especially if you'd like to put them out for cheese plates and charcuterie boards. They kind of will lean towards more gourmet, or if you do paninis, thin ones are nice because you really just get that nice flavor. And I think, fresh summer sandwiches are good for like a thicker crunch. But your call, it's totally your call. So if you're going thin, you know, to keep it still, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. If you went less than that, they might not hold up to the heat. So those are nice thin ones. And then that's going to be about 1/4 of an inch. So you don't want to go too much bigger than that. Maybe that's hard to tell on the camera. That's a little bit of a range. So we can just go through. I did not mention this recipe is for 3 pounds, and that's about 3 pounds of cucumbers that we had on the cutting board to start. Sometimes I think it's hard at market to know that you're looking for 3 pounds for a recipe. And you can see kind of how much I trimmed from the spears too. Like you could use these again for chips, or as I do, you could save them for your hydrating after pickle snack too. What else could we talk about now? Well, I guess, yeah, so we'll get these salted, and this is good to do your prep first if in a pickle recipe that's getting salted, because then you know everything is settled and in there, and you can go and gather the rest of your goods and get your jars set up and get the brine built, and even on the heat if you do want to. So maybe I won't cut up all of these while we're live on Facebook. So that is, if we were doing the whole one, we'd want to do all 6 cups of that salt. Oh no, that is incorrect. Let's do, yeah, so you're dividing up the total salt that's in the recipe. So some of it's going in for the salting process to do the work of like starting the pickle and drawing that cucumber water out. So I'm going to toss it with 6 tablespoons. It may have been 5. And so there are 2 different options here. The recipe calls for salting and filling it up with cold water. Depending on the variety of the cucumber, some people do just salt, and it will pull out enough of the cucumber water to submerge the cucumbers. That's like the first step to fermented pickles, which maybe is next demo or something. So should I walk over there and fill it up? Oh, this guy? Yeah. So, and we just want to have them covered. So yes, it's like their pre-brine brine. So they will just set like that. Because we're in like a nice temperature controlled room, but because it's summertime, and if you're in your home kitchen, cover this up, because otherwise you could invite, I don't know if you got flies around or something. Okay, so that's going to salt, but I guess, now we're back here and we've already salted for an hour and we've rinsed and drained. So now the next thing that's going to take a little bit of time is your brine coming up to heat. So that's what we'll do first, and then we'll get to packing the jars and the pickles. So this brine, it's a 1-to-1 brine, so it's equal parts vinegar and water. This for a really crisp classic dill, typically you use distilled white vinegar. It makes it that really clean flavor. We do sometimes, because some people in my life like to use like a little bit more sweetness or a little tannin. So an apple cider vinegar will be, you can substitute that for that. So essentially you can substitute any vinegar as long as it says 5% acidity. And that is, that's one of your landed facts. Don't mess with that in the recipe. As long as you keep making sure you have a 5% acidity and you keep the measurements the same, you can change out the kind of vinegar. I had one once with a honey vinegar that was totally wild and really delicious. And yeah, if you chose something with like a ginger blend and use the honey vinegar, yeah, it could be really fun. We also make a Thai spiced pickle that is the same build, but the spice blend has like some lemongrass and galangal, and it's fun. So using like an apple cider vinegar for something like that is nice. You play with the sweetness. Okay, so we're going to take the rest of the salt from the recipe. So that was 6 tablespoons. So it's just 2 tablespoons that are going to go in the brine. And we'll do the distilled vinegar. This is the brand that we use on the farm, Spectrum. We love it. So we're going to do 2 cups and 2 cups. So 2 cups of the vinegar. Cups of water. Now, as far as the water goes, is if you drink the water, it's good to pickle with. There's some conversations about different kinds of water, but that's what my teachers say. If you drink the water, then it's perfect for pickling too. Okay, so we'll just get that cranked on high, and now we'll let that come up to heat and work on packing the pickles. I'm just trying to, oh, here we go, more. So, half a tablespoon. I love these. They're magnetic. They're like super fun. So, if you're doing more of a pint size or a half pint, I would stick to a half teaspoon to like 1 teaspoon. And if you're doing a larger one, to do 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of your spice blend. So we've got that all set here. So I'm going to go to 2 whole ones in here. And then 3. And then this recipe calls for 1 garlic clove in each one. If you love garlic dills, I just encourage you to find a garlic dill recipe. You can get in touch with us too. We have garlic dill recipes too, but it's the same kind of thing where there's been some adjustments made in the brine. So garlic is one of the things you want to stick with in the recipe. However many it calls for in a pickle recipe is however much the recipe is made for. Okay, so they're all good and packed, and so ready for loading up the pickles. When we're doing spears, I like to kind of hold them on the side so they'll stay straight up at first while you're getting them set. Yes, and when we're packing pickles, you want them to be snug in there, but not tight. So if you feel like you're having to make real estate for the next one, you're full, you're packed. So it looks like I can get one more thin one in there. And yeah, that's about a perfect amount. You don't have to stick just spears in one thing and chips in another. You know, if you're doing this for a party for next weekend and you want just a whole smorgasbord of pickles, you could do all kinds of chips and spears all in one thing. I mean, it's actually kind of fun. It looks beautiful in a jar. But we'll keep these straight. This I know in my fridge is like their snackers and their sandwich ones.
Do you ever mix vegetables in? Would you ever put like carrots in or anything?
Oh yes, yeah. This is a great brine for. This is a great recipe for carrots too. Definitely for quick pickles. This recipe you could use for any vegetable for quick pickling. With carrots, you know, I find one specific for carrots. I'm here to talk that out, but I feel like I was about to get into a big conversation, and I'll hold that. Yeah. Yeah, and so too, if you like eat these real quick over the weekend and the brine is still good, you can fill it back up with some other kinds of vegetables too, to really take advantage of that brine. Now we're waiting for water to boil. But that's it. We got there. Yeah, just having your prep. Pickle is a big prep game. It's getting all your This is the biggest part of prep. I don't know how long it takes you to peel garlic, but no matter how many like thousands of pounds we've peeled at the farm, it still is a game of patience. And put your favorite music or podcast on and peel your garlic. I hope this gives you a good sense too if you're pulling things out of your garden. If you're like, because sometimes a whole boatload, a whole basket of cucumbers can feel so overwhelming. But they really do chop down pretty easy, especially if you have the plan in the kitchen, or at least you have an idea of like having those spice blends made up already in your pantry. I think just helps in that like the high heat of summer, and you're like, how are there so many cucumbers? It's a blessing, so you just have to be ready for it.
How many pounds do you process a summer of cucumbers?
Usually it's between 6,000 to 8,000 pounds. And a lot of those come from a couple of the growers that we work with, that they're organic small farms in Bodenham. And then we do grow this variety and a couple other ones because we do some different kinds of pickled products too. Like we make cornichons in a small batch, and we make some. The other cucumber that we grow and Bluebell Farm grows too is the Boothby Blondes, which is a Maine heirloom cucumber. The Boothby family's from Livermore Falls, and they, I think 6 generations, it's a stewarded heirloom, and it makes a gorgeous relish. That's what we do our bread and butters with, because the bread and butter has like a mustard turmeric brine, and it's a yellow skinned cucumber, so it's like sunshine. We're all about opening jars in the winter that make you feel the sunshine of summer, so yeah. That I was just trying to think like how many have we gone through at what point. I think we're about like 3,000 pounds into the season, so I think we're hitting the halfway mark. Yes. Okay. So we're boiling. We'll do this over a sink, but I'm going to do it here. Because, one thing I don't have with me right now is a canning funnel. They're made to fit like more like a ball jar lid, and so it wouldn't be so helpful here, but having a liquid pour for pickling and for pouring brine is really helpful. I mean, these are the kind of tools that help the process feel smooth and easy, because it has a directed, if you ever tried to pour out of like a cup measure or something, or liquid measuring cups they're pretty much everything in my house. We use them for everything. So we want to leave a little head space, and you also want to cover the cucumbers. So it looks like that guy was a little bit high. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but that's good to know when you're making your guide. The canning funnel. So you'll see, it does help you direct it still to, so even if you don't have a liquid measure and you do have a canning funnel, it would still be helpful, because it really, you just don't want to go splashing hot vinegar all over. It would help you clean. So. All right, we'll put a little bit more in that one. And I wanted to mention, if you're still packing and your brine's boiling, you can turn it off the heat. You want to be pickling when this is above 100 degrees. So if you are feeling if you're feeling not so confident that it stayed above 100, use a thermometer or just bring it back up to heat when you are ready. If you've got a ton of jars out, and it's helpful to have it, warmed, so when you are ready to pour, you can just kind of crank it back up. So that is the classic dill pickles. If you're going to put these in the fridge and do a quick pickle, then I like to leave these out for like an hour to cool down before putting them into the cold fridge. If you are water bath canning, this is the point where you close them up, and if you know you're getting into it, you would have had your canner boiling already, and so they would be ready to go right in. That's them. They're beautiful. I think, maybe you could take a picture tomorrow of them, because it's amazing the magic happens from the color now until the color tomorrow. You'll really see it take on the brine and be that nice pickly green. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.